This is Joe Pavich Jr., and welcome to the Joe Pavich Podcast. This show is all about real people, meaningful conversations, and a splash of real estate. Welcome to the Joe Show. Today, I'd like to introduce my guest, Harold Balink with Harold's Restaurant. Harold, great to see you.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to this morning for sure.
Absolutely. Today, we're going to talk about the ins and outs of the restaurant business, life, get to know Harold a little bit. And I got to tell you what, if you have not been to Harold's Restaurant, you have to go. That's my date spot.
You know, it's you two. I love you. We became friends, and we did some wine dinners for the Southwest Florida Wine Fest. I love that you guys are so actively involved in charity and the community. So it was a no-brainer. You know, I didn't know you too well until we did that first dinner. Then we came back the next year, did another one. It was awesome. Your family's great. Your friends are great. It's. I'm glad we've developed that friendship for sure.
Thanks, Harold. Well, I've always seen you out there. You're a big guy. You got that intimidating look to you, and I never really wanted to just walk up and say hi to you. And when I got a chance to meet you, I mean, you're a big normal guy. I love that. Don't you like hearing that?
I love it. You know, it's funny. A lot of people feel that way, but then once you get to know me, you know, 5 minutes in, I have that teddy bear demeanor for sure. I think the rowdy days are long gone, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me as well. But it's got to be a nice feeling though when people say, Harold's a normal guy.
Yeah.
I love meeting Harold. Some people have said, Joe, I haven't talked to Joe, and not thinking I'm just an average Joe, and I am. And it's a good feeling to hear people say, hey, we're just normal guys, right?
You know, I think that when you're self-confidence and you're an extrovert, it comes across as too much to some people, and some people are intimidated by that.
Sure.
Like I said, I didn't know you. I knew your wife a little bit, but after the first dinner, you and I spoke for 5 minutes. We walked around your house, and you're just the glow when you're talking about your kids. Like, I'm like, this guy's, you know, I knew we were going to be just fine.
I love it. Yeah, thank you.
You got it.
We had a blast. Maybe another party coming up soon. Who knows?
Maybe.
They're talking.
Yeah, I'm getting a little old to do those offsite, dinners anymore.
Yes.
But you know, the bones don't move like they used to.
Well, the restaurant is so busy. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I can imagine how much free time you have, right? When you got a packed restaurant, off season, in season, it's so awesome.
You know what's good for us is that the busier we are, the more staff I have. So actually, the more freedom I have. I can pick and choose my times to be there. So I can slip out in the middle of the day to go to the gym, or leave early to go have a drink with a pretty girl. You know, it gives me a lot more freedom the busier we are. So it's pretty
that's
good.
Right.
Yeah.
Harold, you mentioned extrovert, right? You know, I wonder if that has to do with maybe, you know, like T-shirts you wear, right? I love the T-shirt, by the way. Read banned books.
I think it has a little more emphasis with me because I'm a big guy, right? So it's almost like a walking billboard.
You're right.
Because I get stopped everywhere.
Yeah,
Costco,
it's like walking around with a
Publix,
piece of art,
100%,
right?
yeah.
And I'm sure that starts a conversation.
Joe Pavich sells. That's my next T-shirt.
Nice.
So they're like,
I like that. I'm gonna get one made for you.
I knew you'd like that.
In a double XL, you know. But Harold, I've seen what you've done. It's just such a great spot. And people always ask me, Joe, give me some things on the menu at Harold's. And I really can't tell them because it's always different. And I say, pin the tail on the menu.
Right.
I mean, you can blindfold me and I can touch the menu, and I'm sure it's going to be great.
When you said that, you know, I don't remember 3 trips ago, I haven't used it yet, but it struck me. I'm like, that's awesome. I'll absolutely use that line if I can, if you haven't trademarked it already. But, you know, when we started the little place after I sold Crew, I did it for me so I could keep interested, you know, so because it was always challenging to me. And now it's just carried over. Now we have the bigger place expanded, and the guys are super involved. They love it. Like, we sit down on Thursday, start brainstorming for the next week. So instead of doing specials nightly, it's a 30% menu change where dishes are like thought out, tested over a couple weeks, and then, you know, final presentation. So it really works out well for us.
Harold, I'll tell you what, the cauliflower bites. You just start off with that, and whatever else we get, we're happy with it.
You're all
sure.
good from there. Yeah.
So Harold, we were talking a little bit about perception. You know, like, you're a big guy. People probably don't come up to you as much because you're intimidating. But it's always nice when you just walk up to someone and say hi. It doesn't hurt to say hi, right? I've always been that way. I'll tell you a funny story. So me and my dad, we work out at the gym together in the mornings. And, you know, we do cardio. We stand next to each other, and we do our thing. And, you know, you look around the gym, and there's always those faces that just look kind of intimidating, right? So me and my dad would have this thing that we would do to where we would try to make a friend first. Whoever got a chance to introduce the other person to, I don't know, the big guy Harold that's benching 350, was like a win. It was pretty cool. So, if I met Harold first and said, "Hey, Dad, meet Harold," then all of a sudden he was like, "Ah, Joe, you got to him before me," because it was so cool just to get a chance to meet people, right?
We were talking about you were talking about your dad earlier, and my dad lives in Colorado, and I've been away for 40 years. We're super close, but not like that. So I was a little envious, which was cool. I enjoyed that. I love that you still have that relationship, and the fact that you guys can, do fun little things like that, just to keep your relationship cool and help, keep your edges sharp, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I never have an issue talking to people. I mean, it's my job, right? So
Yeah.
I'm never intimidated. I love. It's food and wine is the byproduct of wanting to be around people,
That's right.
wanting to be a people person, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're essentially in the same type of business, right? It's the people business.
We were talking about little things we were going to discuss today, and that has to be one of them. It's goes beyond that. I think for both of us, I think it's about community too. Like you two are so involved. As am I, and that's what matters, right? Your core family with those beautiful kids, but then helping out in the community, being seen, giving back, all those things. That's the basis of community, right? So then business just comes on top of that, right?
That's right.
That's just like icing on the cake, I think.
Time flies so quick. It'll be pretty soon. I'll be calling you up and saying, "Harold, can you fit Joey and his girlfriend in there for two in an hour?" Which is awesome. I don't know how you do it. We're going to talk more about the restaurant business a little bit later, but we appreciate all that you do. That's for sure.
It's my pleasure.
Harold, are there any mottos that you go by or sort of live by? I know for me, I've always said in my business, I never want to overpromise. I always want to overdeliver, and that's a big thing, right? You never want to tell somebody something that you can't do.
Right.
I feel like today, it's sort of a forgotten art, right? People tell you what they want to hear, I think, to get you off the phone, and then they can disappoint later.
For sure. One of our biggest things is never saying no. And that doesn't necessarily mean we always deliver every little thing, even the most ridiculous request, but we don't say no. We figure out a way, may I lead you down this direction, or I physically don't have that, whatever, but how about this,
Sure.
And so all the staff is empowered. We'll open almost any bottle of wine for someone who wants to have a splash because I don't want that glass of, whatever. And that's just a simple example, but all my staff does it, from the hosts to Cesar,
That's great.
Yeah. So
at first, they probably don't understand that they get a chance to think like Harold, right?
Right.
They have to do what you would do.
100%.
Just make people happy. That's all you got to do.
That's the magic of our little spot that we've created. It's not me, it's them. We don't serve food and wine. We sell a seat. And so if you two come in for a cocktail late at night, I want you walking out with a grin and going, God, we love that place. Or you come and have date night like you did the other night. You walk out going, God, we just love his staff. We love that place.
That's right.
So that's the magic. It's not the food. It's not the wine. Those are components for sure. But it's just that seat. Well, how
That's
can
right.
we make everyone love that seat?
Yeah, and we do. That's for sure. So, Harold, I know you're into some extreme things. I didn't know that about you. Now I do. I mean, some of these crazy things you've done, tell me about it. I know skydiving explain some of that.
Life is meant to be lived, I think. I learned early on, getting into a lot of trouble and doing crazy stuff, that we only get one go around. So I just want to experience everything. So it started super, super young with jumping out of an airplane. And then it was hang gliding, which was probably the most harrowing for me, because we're as a tandem and running off the edge of not a cliff, but a long hill, over beach, over water.
That's insane.
My heart rate must have been 220.
Where do you do something like that?
This was in New England.
Okay.
Yeah, and I jumped out of an airplane in Colorado. We used to go spelunking in caves in North Carolina and California and Colorado. The latest adventure was a year after Julie passed. I was in New Zealand, North Island, and we were 200 meters down in glowworm caves in Central Island, New Zealand. And man, I'm telling you, it wasn't as easy because I was like 47, 48, and I get a few meters in. And I was the first one, and the guys are like, "You okay?" Because they gave you directions, and everything looks the same. I'm like, "Oh, he goes, just breathe." And I was like, once I got past it, no big deal. But man, it was crazy.
Well, you're a big guy, right? It's not like you're 125 and 5'2". I mean, you're.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big spot. But I guess everybody behind you must have felt pretty good knowing if Harold gets through there, it's going to be pretty simple.
I think that's why they probably picked me, because they didn't really give me a choice. They're like, you should go first.
Send him out first.
Yeah, send him. If the fat kid gets stuck, you're in.
So what's the next thing? You feel like you've conquered everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me now, a lot of that, I still love that sense of adventure. But as the body breaks down, it's just not as easy to do those things. I love to ski still. I don't go to the top of the mountain anymore because the knees don't love it. But Joe, it's more about what I can do with my platform, and with, I think there's just been so much strife, even in our little community, that I can smile and I can make people happy, and I can do little things for everyone in my day-to-day life to lift them up a little bit. So that's where I'm at. That's my next challenge.
I love it. You're conquering fears. Anything 100%. You do in life, you're looking back and saying, hey, it's better than being 200 meters down in a cave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking at, is it like glow worms, or what was it?
It's the only place in the world. I'll send you a picture. When you, some of the caves, you're floating down and you look up, and it looks like you're laying on the side of a hill and looking at the entire Milky Way. But they're all worms. It's crazy.
That's
crazy
insane.
Cool.
That's something that I probably wouldn't want to do, right? Being so far down. I could see being up a little bit because you're kind of above the world.
Right.
But when you're down below,
yeah,
it must be pretty cold down there too, I would assume.
It's cold, but you're in neoprene, thick. It's like a thick wetsuit too, and you realize that it's not a ride. Like they're not going to stop it, and you get out on the emergency exit, right? You have to go through. So it's a real metaphor for life. And if you look at it that way, like, okay, whatever I'm going to face, as long as I take it one step forward, I'm going to make it through eventually.
That's right.
No matter how hard it is, and whether it's mental or physical or job or career or family, it's a cool thing to do.
If you would have had an Apple Watch today going down the cave, it would probably be alerting you. Your heart rate's over 300.
Danger.
Yeah, danger. That's right. Or you'd have to get on that app, the Breathe app, right, where it has you just take a few deep breaths.
Harold, stop what you're doing, please.
Yeah. It's amazing what a few deep breaths can do, right?
100%.
So I used to get into some extreme things growing up that you probably didn't know about. I was big into skateboarding when I was younger, and BMXing, so going fast, doing crazy things. I got scars all over my shins and body to prove that.
I love it.
But now it's snowboarding and skiing.
Yeah.
Every year we take the kids to Colorado, have a good time, and that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Julie and I lived. We had a condo in Breckenridge on the base of Peak 8.
Okay.
For about 15 years, and ski in, ski out. So we had a little locker.
Oh, nice.
Pulled our skis, went straight to started at 8:30. We skied in the morning on the bottom because she wasn't a black,
Yeah.
And then we'd have lunch, and then she'd let me go to the top of the mountain for the rest of the day. Yeah. So I loved it. I still love to ski.
So we would put the kids in ski school. That was the thing, right? Put them in ski school, let them get a refresher. Me and Jen would go with an instructor and get a refresher as well. And it was funny because one year, they want to invite the kids in, but Jake did not want to go in ski school. So there was this little, I guess like a mascot on skis,
right,
with a jam box on his shoulder, kind of skiing through there. And I said, I'm going to get Jake to go to ski school because of this mascot, right? I pull the guy over to me, grabs Jake's hand, takes him in. Yes, awesome. We're off to the races. So we go skiing all day. Second day, the mascot came by. I'm like, here we go. I'm going to do the same thing. Jake looked at him and said, not happening again, Dad. You got me once, not twice. And he just skied with us, for the rest of the day. But now the kids have gotten pretty good at skiing.
Yeah, they're competent, right?
Yeah.
See, we were talking about parenting before we came in here, and about my T-shirt, this T-shirt, and it's just about parents need to be involved always, and it's gotten harder because both parents have to work or for 20 or 30 years now, so you're not always home. But you still have to parent. You have to say, don't read that book. We don't need the school to ban it. Or you bring your kids and say, yeah, you're going to take a half day lesson, not because just mom and I want to be on our own, but because it's going to help you.
Yeah.
And now when you get 13, 14, you're going to be skiing with us all day because you're going to be amazing, right? That's parenting,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's amazing now because they've gotten better than we have. So last time we went skiing, you'll get a crack out of this one. So Joey, Joey and Jules can pass us. So Joey, he wants to keep going. He thinks he knows where he's going, right?
Right.
Blues, turn right, left, turn black. So he wants to turn right. And in my mind, I'm thinking right is taking us to Val Village.
Right.
You know where Val Village is?
I do, of course.
Left is where we should have gone. But he's like, Dad, let's go. I said, Joey, it's the wrong way. So I let him go. And then we end up at the bottom of the hill. And he's like, where are we at? Val Village.
Yeah.
Should have listened to Dad. But you just let him do it, and it's a blast.
Yeah, it goes right into that. You know, if you hold on to them, to don't let them experience anything or don't let them make mistakes. You know, at some point they're going to be either so timid when they get away from you that they're not going to try anything, or they're going to be so crazy because you kept them so sheltered.
That's right.
That when you can't watch them and help them because they're 21 or 22, they're going to go out of control.
That's
so
right.
you got to let them fall down, let them skin the knee,
That's
let them
right.
make mistakes, you know, and then guide them. That's, you know, don't hold on to them so tight
Yeah.
so they can't experience anything.
Our poor parents, especially yours and the stuff you're doing.
Joe, I told you, man.
I mean, I was skating, just skateboarding in the backyard. I mean, you were doing some pretty crazy stuff.
We were out of control, getting in fights. I can't tell you how many times I went to jail. And my
Yeah.
dad just let me spend the night. And thank
Yeah.
God they were so much more lenient back then. You know, if it was in the 2000s, you know, I'd still be in jail. You know?
But you're here today.
Yeah, here smiling and,
Yes,
and
you
having
are.
a good time.
You know, it's funny. You look at your old you and the new you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, does everybody still feel like that's one person, or do you kind of almost feel like you have two lives? Almost. It's like I feel like.
Don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and we were talking, you know, I didn't know when we had the restaurant downtown when you were just a baby and
Yeah.
causing trouble in the streets, but you couldn't come to the restaurant,
No.
so I didn't know you know. So
You
hearing
that's
about
right.
that was pretty cool, you know. You sneaking by cigar bar and coming in and having a shot. We were probably there, you know, drinking after
Probably,
work,
yeah.
you know. Yeah, absolutely. But because I grew up in Colorado and then spent the second half of my life here, it is two lives. And
That's right.
It's both homes, you know. Boulder's still home. We still go back all the time.
Yeah.
My parents are still there. My youngest daughter moved out there. But Fort Myers is home.
Yeah.
You know, I love this town. I love the people. I love the community. This coast, seen it grow like you, and
Yeah.
been a huge part of the growth like you.
Yeah.
I love it. It's awesome.
Harold, downtown Fort Myers. I mean, that was a big part of me growing up, for sure. There was nothing else to do. When we moved here, it was either downtown Naples or downtown Fort Myers. And that's where it all began for you, right?
Yeah. Didn't it feel like it took 3 hours to get to Naples?
It did.
And then when there's nothing there, it was
Yeah.
one road, right? Downtown Fort Myers was the Wild West when we opened the restaurant downtown, for sure.
So
It was
what
crazy.
restaurant was it that you first opened?
We bought the Sky Bar building where Firestone's is now, and it used to be Peter's La Cuisine
Yeah.
in the 80s and 90s. And we bought the building from Peter. We installed the elevator that goes straight up to the Sky Bar, and we opened Harold's on Bay. And about a year and a half later, my partner and I sold the building, and I subleased the restaurant back out from the guys that bought the building.
Okay.
And we had a great run, 8-9 years. When they tore up the streets to make downtown what it is now, which is amazing, looks beautiful, we lost, like 70% of the business in 1 month. So
Sure.
we just couldn't stay alive. And I had the little tapas bar next door called H2, where Twisted Vine
Oh, yeah.
built.
Yeah.
We had that. So moved some of my staff over there, and we kept operating for another year or two. And then I sold it in 2000, a year, I guess. Sold it in 2009. And then I bought Crew the next year in 2010. So, but downtown was great. I loved seeing the growth. I loved, it was hard. I learned a ton of lessons. Had a great time. Sort of made our bones, I guess, in the restaurant business in town. People trusting me to take care of them, So it was brutal, but it was necessary probably.
It's got to be so hard in the restaurant business, or really in any business where you want to be kind of front and center. It's like that was a good spot right downtown, right in the heart of downtown, right? And your new restaurant is not in the heart of a plaza or a mall or anything like that, right? But if you have something so unique like you do, people will come to you.
Yeah.
I just love that, because I feel like everybody's always searching for that perfect spot. And there's a couple really good spots in town. I'm not going to mention any names, but they just didn't do well over time. You'd see a restaurant change every couple of years, right?
Right.
So
I think some of it is my personality, for sure. As we've talked about earlier, being extroverts, doing a ton of charity work for 25 years. That you're always in, but owning the restaurant downtown and people knowing, and then owning Crew for 7, 8, 9 years, because it was the center of the Fort Myers universe.
Yeah.
So this operation, it wasn't as hard. We didn't have to market it very much, even though it is off the beaten path,
Sure.
because people know me. I would say if you're coming to town, location is a lot more important than if you have a base clientele built up.
Sure.
And that's probably true for any business.
sure,
you
yeah,
know?
it is. It's all about just creating a great spot for people to go to, right?
100%. Yeah.
So Harold, your old spot was a really cool spot, right? It was half the size.
Yeah.
And obviously you were full all the time, and you came up with this crazy idea. Let me expand.
Yeah.
I know that I would probably be going crazy with it. Every time a change comes up, you always overthink it. What happens if I fail?
Right.
What happens if I grow too fast, right? Or I don't grow enough? Were you scared to expand? Because you pretty much doubled your space.
Yeah, tripled. I don't know about scared. I think if you don't have a little pit in your stomach for every new venture. I think that you're probably not going to be as successful. Like you have to have that trepidation.
That's right.
You have to
Risk. There's got to be a little bit of
right.
risk.
So scared though, it's the only way I want to live life, like I said, and so that philosophy carries through with everything, with business,
Sure.
with kids, with friends. I want to meet everyone. I want to know everyone, and I travel. I spent 3 hours in a barber shop in Wellington, New Zealand, and I don't have a whole lot of hair, Joe. So it was about 7 minutes of a haircut, but then I'm talking to 2 Kiwis and an Aussie, and then everyone who comes in because I'm the American, right? And 3 hours of conversation. It was awesome. It made the trip. The whole trip was great, but that was
It's amazing what you learn by just well, that's why I'm doing the podcast.
I
Right?
get that's why.
Be a good
when
listener.
you told me the idea, I'm like, I couldn't wait to come on because I just think it's great that you're finding new avenues, things that you're like, I want to get good at this, and I want to. The marketing, of course, is wonderful, but you're engaging. You're getting to know more about the people that you're talking to. You're getting to know more about who they are, about what they're doing.
Yeah, that's right.
And also, you're getting better at something that you like doing. Right? It's pretty cool.
It's a blast.
It's
for
cool.
Sure. You've had the same staff forever. That is so awesome. I feel like in any business, when you have the same people, they look at you and say, Harold must be a real good guy, right? I mean, you're keeping the same people.
I would love to take all the credit. Trust me. Our philosophy certainly helps that. There's a force field around our building, Joe. Every restaurant has a percentage of guests, whether it's 5% or 20%, I don't know, that are just grumpy, right? We just don't. If they are, when they walk through the door, they're like magically transformed into, gosh, Heather's going to wait on us, and gosh, I can't wait to have Harold's veal chop.
That's right.
So I don't know why, but we'll take it. It's only 5 nights a week. I'm not a screamer, I'm not so there's no intimidation factor with the staff. They know they're going to serve good food because our kitchen staff is rocking, and they make great money. Our prices aren't cheap, so they make great money. So
that's right.
I think all those factors really play into why we just don't have turnover.
Sure. That's hard, right? Because most businesses, they fire in the off season and they hire in season, right? You just can't be that way.
Yeah.
Even like during COVID for me, a couple of my girls, been with me a long time, by the way. Teresa's been with me almost 15 years.
Wow.
Which is cool. So I feel like I've had the same team for a very long time. I have 4 assistants. And one of them came to me and said, so I guess we're not going to have a job, right? I said, no, of course you are, because we're going to pick up again, and we're going to be doing the same thing we're doing now.
Yeah.
I said, just use this time to to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Because it's let's get out there, let's find new clients. I'm going to try a lot of new marketing. Which, when the market's slow, you got to pick up the marketing a little bit, right?
100%. Yeah.
When we delegate, and
right. When you have to make that decision, right? There's there's going to be some casualties, but if you're strong enough and have enough foresight to keep your head about you, then you make it happen. Like when we shut down for COVID, I paid my staff. I didn't give them what they would normally make in tips, but I kept them alive.
That's right.
And it hurt me, of course, but I knew it was going to be an end, so I knew they were going to come back. I didn't want to rehire from scratch. Same when we renovated. There's 2 or 3, 4 that would 2 back, 2 front that I knew I wanted to stay with me. So we're 5 months, and I just kept them on the payroll.
That's right.
It was brutal.
Those tough stories make you so much better, don't they?
Yeah, man. And the loyalty. People know about that, and they hear that.
They don't forget that, for
100%.
sure. You're a family. You have to not be an old school thinker in your business or my business where you think you could do everything yourself, right? Mm-hmm. You got to delegate. You got to have the right staff. They all have to think like Harold. They got to think like Joe. You're basically giving each employee the keys, right? Hey, act like me and do what I do.
Yeah. There's certainly one of the biggest reasons for our success is that there's ownership. The staff feels ownership. They think they feel like it's their restaurant too, which it is. So that helps. That makes it gives us a leg up on most people for sure.
Harold, does it ever make you feel vulnerable that you expose so much of how you are and what you do to all your people, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I get asked that every once in a while with people that get to know me a little bit deeper, right? And they're like, "Well, everyone already knows you because of social media and your restaurants and your story with your wife." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not me. That's still just a nth degree."
Sure.
And no, I'm an extrovert. I'm not a wallflower, and I don't use it for marketing or it's just me.
Sure.
So I don't know how to do another. I don't know how to do another way. It doesn't. I don't think I overdo it. I don't think I underdo it. I think I'm just me. You know. So it's
full throttle.
Full throttle. It's well, like we talked about earlier. You know, this is one life, one go around. I want to live. I want to feel everything.
Sure.
And that means that if I'm going to feel the great friendship and closeness, then I'm going to lose a few friends, or I'm going to have my heart broke a little bit. You know, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Harold, you and I have a little bit of a different schedule, right? Your schedule kind of starts middle of the day.
Yeah.
My schedule usually starts pretty early. Like I have to get out, cup of coffee, on the road, gym, school kids, and I got to be ready like this at 7:30. What's it like? What's your morning routine like?
As I've gotten to people of a certain age, Joe, and you're not there yet, and I'm not going to push you on it, trust me.
We're not too far away, Harold.
But I wake up every day at 7. So if I go to bed from a long night of having too much fun at 4:30 or 5, I'm still up at 7. So get up, take my dog for a walk, and then do some gentle yoga.
That's good.
You talked about breathing. I do 5 to 15 minutes of meditation and breathing every morning. Same thing.
That's
do some
great.
light stretching. So that certainly helps my tone.
Sure.
And it helps in the restaurant when I get that one crazy guest. And I go into the kitchen, lean back against the wall, and just breathe.
One deep breath.
30 seconds, man. And then I go right back out, and I don't have to do a shot of whiskey to calm the nerves.
That's right.
The breathing helps.
It's so important, though, to get everything out of your head. I feel like, for me, getting everything out of my head, anything I go to sleep with, it's usually nothing. I'm usually sitting in my bed watching a show on TV.
Right.
And that's the only thing I'm thinking of. It's hard to do that, to clear your mind of all the things out there, right?
It's practice like everything, though,
Yeah.
right? People are like, I can't clear my mind, or I can't calm myself down. Well, then you have to practice. It's not that you can't. It's that you haven't figured out your right avenue to discipline yourself to do it. And that it's not motivation.
Yeah.
It's discipline. And
That's
there's a
right.
big difference.
Yoga. People love doing yoga now.
Man.
That's like the thing. I haven't done yoga yet.
Do you have 2 seconds? Because it's a funny story how I started.
Yes, absolutely.
So the old Omni off a Boy Scout, my wife's like, you have to come, and we're doing a class. I'm like, I'm not doing spin. She's like, let's do yoga. I'm like, fine, let's go. So I go in. It's 30 women and me, and 29 of the women I know, right? The lady, she's like, come up front. I'm like, okay, and I'd never done yoga at all, right? So I do the class. There's like 10 towels around me because I'm just pouring sweat. It's the hardest thing. And she's pushing me, and they're all, laughing. And I just lay there for like 10 minutes after, and then get up and go. And next Saturday I showed up again, and all of them were clapping, laughing, because they're like, we knew you weren't coming back. I'm like, no, I'm in now.
Nice.
Because when I left, 5 minutes after I left, my body changed after one class.
Wow.
I'm like, this is the best feeling. Like, it was like kissing a pretty girl for the first time.
Yeah.
It was, my whole body had tingles. So now I'm religious, and I'm terrible at it still, but you can feel like joints and
Sure.
muscles opening and stretching that you didn't know you had. It's pretty cool.
Whatever you're doing is working, because this is the leanest I've ever seen you. And I would be on one of those shows, my 700-pound or whatever it is, life, right, on Netflix. I'd be on one of those shows, because picking and choosing and trying different foods out all day, every day.
Yeah.
It's got to be
discipline,
crazy,
right?
but
Yeah,
you
it's
look great.
hard. It's thanks. I appreciate it. Again, discipline. You allow
Yeah.
yourself to, have a little too many glasses of wine too many nights a week, or then getting up in the morning and going to the gym is, you're like
Nothing.
thumbs down.
Yeah. Have you ever tried Bikram yoga?
Yeah.
Where it's like 100 and something degrees inside?
Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah.
Harold, you've been a chef for a very long time. The menus have changed so much over the years. We go to these charity events, right? I look around the table, not one person has the same meal. Everything comes out at once. It's pretty impressive, right? But there's so many different types of diets. Vegan, keto, dairy-free, paleo. Tell me about some of these diets. Are they hard to cater to?
For years, the percentages were way less than, Joe. So it was easier. Maybe you still got irritated, whatever. For us, I made the conscious decision as we've grown and expanded to, like, we don't have regular soy sauce in the restaurant at all. It's only tamari. So therefore, whatever we use that in, or when someone wants it, especially the gluten-free, which is a lot, is predominant now. Protein-based food, obviously our highlights of our menu. We do
Sure.
a ton of fun stuff with pastas and vegetables, whatever. But our proteins are from purveyors, top line across the world, right? So we can do a simple protein, no problem. That handles a lot of things, makes it simple. Our risotto base, when we serve risotto, it's done with a vegetarian stock. So when I have a vegetarian come in, then I can just do that risotto and not add butter or Parmesan to it with whatever, with spinach. Vegetarian instantly. So a lot of the things that are challenges for other restaurants, we've already built in. Like we don't thicken with flour in anything. We don't thicken our soups, sauces, anything. We use rice starch, potato starch, tapioca starch. Again, just to cut it out. So if you come and have a thick chowder, and it's not thickened with flour, right? So it's
do you have to go out there
gluten-free.
and learn all this? Do you have to go out there and learn
That's
so
experimenting.
much about? Okay.
No, it's experiment. You just you just do it until because the percentages are different. That potato starch, so that soup is just the right consistency and silkiness, because flour is great, right? But it's also easier to use, way forgiving. So you can't have the pasta or gnocchi when you come to the restaurant if you have a gluten problem, but everything else you're safe. So
that's great.
But again, that's just building the whole restaurant around that. So it makes it easier so my cooks aren't pulling their hair out.
Sure. I think it's great.
That's cool.
Harold, you're in the restaurant every night for the most part. You move around from table to table. You say hi to everybody. Some clients you haven't seen in a year, especially when it comes for season, right? People aren't back since last season. Now you see them. Everybody wants to have a drink with Harold. How do you manage not having, 5 glasses of wine every single night with because these are all your friends, right?
Yeah.
They want to share a drink with you.
Yep.
How do you manage that?
Over the years, I've poured myself a splash of club soda with a splash of cranberry juice, or colored water. Honestly, sometimes. Otherwise, I would just drink. Now I have such a rapport with most of my clients that I tell them straight up, look, I'm not drinking tonight. And I don't say it rudely. I just said, you know what, tonight's my off night, giving my liver a break, and every single person understands.
Sure.
So it's a lot easier to go 3 or 4 nights or a whole week without having anything at work. And that was my biggest downfall as far as health, and I didn't have a health scare, but I knew it was coming, and I really don't like being told what to do. Like, I've owned my own restaurant since I was 27 because I'm a terrible employee. So before my doctor started telling me, you're going to take these 4 pills and you need to quit drinking and,
Sure.
I just backed off to control it. So I don't have to take those pills, and I don't have to stop drinking because I love a good glass of wine and a good whiskey.
Sure. Well, right now, like I said, you're in great shape. When your body's on fire, right? You're doing good. You look great. It probably makes it a little bit easier too, because you don't want to add the additional.
It does.
2 or 3 glasses of wine.
It does. And the more clear-minded mornings that you wake up, the more that you want that.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's amazing, really.
Yeah.
After one beer, I
Like,
wake up and it just kind of hurts in the morning. That's
Yep.
for sure. How do you manage a restaurant that's packed off season? Season comes. It's got to be a hard juggle.
It's all people, and we switched over to open table 2 years ago now, and I had it at Crew. We should have probably opened with it when we expanded the new place, but I wanted to see every restaurant has a different feel and a different way that people call in and times they want to eat. So I really wanted to get good at it with my staff before we got open table, because it's a cost, right? So now we have it though, and it's superb, and we block off, like most restaurants, a certain time frame so they can't do it online, so we don't overfill.
Sure.
I don't have a surprise 20 top, when I don't have tables for them. And the rest is we fill it in, and we allow extra time for tables. Like if you two are bringing friends in and you call me and say, look, these are buddies, whatever. I know if there's going to be 4 of you that it's not going to be 2 hours, which is a normal. You're probably going to be there for 3 hours, and I'm never going to come to you two and say, I need the table, right? So we build that into our time slots. So we're always busy, but there's never 20 or 30 people out front waiting for tables, because I don't want that. But I would love the money, but it's not so important to not have our reputation of, we just love Harold's and we're never rushed, and we were there for an hour or 3 hours. It doesn't matter. Well,
your girls are great too, because because last weekend we came over at 6 o'clock res, and we were running about 3 minutes late, and I said, 2 more minutes, honey. They're going to call us, because at about 6:05. Hey, Joe, you still coming in? Because they're on it, which I think is so cool.
It is cool.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a good turnover, and that's a training process too. Getting to, just like your guys, trying to get them to communicate well and kindly with kindness, so people don't get offended.
Sure.
It's you got to be gentle for sure.
Harold, let's both tell a good story. All right. I know in the restaurant business everything doesn't go smooth. every single night. I was at your restaurant the other night, and I thought, God, what if the stove broke, or something happened, or the power shut off, or a surge, or something happens? Tell me a story about when something went wrong at the restaurant.
Well, I could tell you 100 million probably. You could do a whole series of podcasts on restaurant disasters.
That's right.
But recently, this is just a year ago, Joe, we lost power and we were full. I had a whole nother turn of people coming. So another, 70 people coming, 65 people coming in. Restaurant, every table was packed, and power went out. So no AC, no hood, nothing. We put candles on all the tables. My cooks turned on their lights on their iPhones, and we opened all the doors, all the windows, put fans in so we could blow some of the smoke out.
Wow.
And we're gassed, so we could still cook.
Nice.
I just stood up and in the dark and just got everyone's attention. I did a shot of whiskey, got everyone's attention, and just told them, look, your food's coming out. We're going to put it out as quickly as possible. No computers, no anything. You guys will eat the rest of your dinner. So don't worry. You don't need to leave. And we're going to make sure it's hot. And the boys did it. And I had my staff call the other 65 people and tell them we got nothing. So
wow.
we offered a few people dinner,
Sure.
Saying, hey, we know it's an anniversary. We know it's out of our control, but we'd love you to come back. We'll buy your
That's
anniversary
right.
dinner. Right. So the other, and most of the 65, have come back. So we didn't lose those
Yeah.
people, even though it was not our fault. And the 80 people that were already there, like
Night-
all of them
that's
come
a
back
night to
going,
remember.
we were just there,
The
6
night
months
that-
ago
yeah,
that you
the
couldn't
horrible
believe
night.
it, right? Our steak was so good. We're eating by candlelight. It was, so that was close to as close to a full disaster as
Wow.
you can get, right? But my guys
That's
handled
amazing.
it great. It was amazing.
But look what you did. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the worst. Because
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. Because if the power goes out, you got nothing.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah. Handwritten checks, the old credit card
Oh, yeah.
roll,
Yeah, that's right.
with on the
Wow.
carbon paper. It's pretty funny.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was
That's a good
crazy.
story. So I'll tell you one as well. Real estate, I could write a book, right? One that kind of comes to mind is that in real estate, sometimes things happen. I had a client that bought a property. It wasn't even my buyer. I was the listing agent. Another agent brought me a buyer. The home was supposed to be sold furnished. Okay? The seller took a bunch of stuff out that he wasn't supposed to. After closing, everything's fine. The buyer, who is not my client, calls me up and says, your seller took a lot of stuff out of here. And I'm thinking, oh, man. In my mind, I'm thinking they probably could have called their realtor and then gone to me. But I said, I'll be right over. I'll meet with you and discuss it. So what happened was they gave me a list of stuff, and they said they took all these items, and it's going to come out to about 10 grand. And when you hear that, you're like, ooh, 10,000 for all this old furniture. In my mind, I'm thinking it's probably worth 4 or 5, whatever.
Right.
So I said, let me deal with it. I'll get back to you. I came back a week later with my checkbook, and I said, well, my seller's not going to do anything, but I will. And wrote a check just to make sure that they're happy, right? You don't want any bad experiences. If you have an opportunity to make something right, you always have to, because it's your name. It's my name. I could have thought of, well, why are they calling me? Why do I have to deal with it? It's not my problem. Well, you made it right.
Joe, that's long game thinking, and it's so hard to get people to understand that. It's business people, kids that are going into college, and they're like, these general ed classes suck, whatever. It's whatever, just it's exposing you to things. But getting people to think long game, I'll tell you, when we have we don't have them very often, thankfully. Every once in a while, of course, this fish is undercooked, that steak's overcooked. No problem. That's a restaurant thing. It happens. But if we really fall down on a table, we never hesitate, and my staff pretty much has that right too.
Sure.
Buy the whole table dinner, because my reputation, as our reputation as the restaurant and who we are, is so much more important.
It is
so much more important than that $500 or that $1,000. It'll pay us back tenfold doing it. And
you can stop it there and they never come back, or now they want to come back more because you did the right thing.
Right.
You always have to do the right thing. That's for sure.
It's how would my staff look at me? Like, they don't expect it, but then they look at, they know that. So what if someone needs money for their help with their down payment on their house or their car or their insurance, or like, I'm short, Harold, desperate, but they see me taking care of guests, so they know that I'm going to take care of them. So it's inherent loyalty, and it's
That's right.
inherent, like, it's like, gosh, that guy has so much character and integrity. I just look up to him like crazy, So it's but it's about me, right? It's how I look at myself. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do. 100%.
Always. You got to just think of the other person, right? You can't think of yourself. You have to think of how they feel
Yep.
in all situations. Harold, let's talk about food waste. You know, every night, right? I mean, I know you guys cook fresh. To have to get rid of food that's, you know, it's not quite ready to get rid of, but you have to. How much waste do you go? I feel like you could almost run another restaurant during the day on food that was tossed last night.
Well, I'll tell you, when we had crew, I took food to community cooperative about once every 2 weeks, and things that were, you know, almost out of date but still in date, but we didn't want to serve, or vegetables that we didn't want to serve that were still good. So I took them and they used them, right? We are so good in our area. The cooler, Joe, you walk in our little cooler and it's like one person, right? So I can't buy. So we buy every day, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 1 bag, 1 quart. So we make more little trips to Restaurant Depot or to Publix if I need to go get a half gallon of milk 3 times a week, because we are so close.
You have it down to a science.
We do, right? So there's just not all vegetables go into a vegetable stock bin. Fish bones go into fish stock for soup. You know, we just don't have a lot of waste. Like, there's just not garbage bags full of stuff, because we get it in every day. We buy small amounts and then utilize it all.
Yeah, that's right.
Just not a lot of stuff goes in the trash. Yeah.
How about recalls? Is that a problem?
No, not very much, thankfully. Yeah,
okay,
thank God.
Yeah, because you every time you turn on the news, there's a recall of something.
Right, and during season, like we're about another month away to where we'll start getting a lot of our products from local farms, so that just doesn't affect us.
Yeah.
You know, and during the summer, we have farms that are not in Florida that go through 2 of my produce vendors specifically that I have. They're not contracts, but they buy, and for other chefs, for those businesses too. We'll get vegetables directly from them, but through that third party. So it helps too, and they're reputable. So it's not a national romaine grower from California that has to recall everything. Thank God, you know.
Yeah, because it's something you always think of for sure.
Yeah.
Harold, last question is choking. Like my biggest fear, I swear. You know, in the restaurant business, does that happen in your restaurant?
We have a tube in the back office that is for that specifically, and the poster in the office to show how to use it. All my staff has been trained on it. We've never had to use it, but I've given the Heimlich to probably 7 guests over my 40 years at tables. So yes, it happens, and it's. You instantly, you're like, you know, the hair goes on the back up on your neck, but it's one of those things, you know, you have to stay calm. Yeah, so I just calmly go up, and I'm a big guy, so I can wrap my hands around pretty much everybody, and I've done it enough to where, you know, I'm not going to break your sternum, but you know, and I've had people turning purple.
You just have to be careful, because I don't know if anybody can lift you up.
Yeah. I chew my food good.
It's amazing. It's a big fear, obviously, and in the way my parents cut. And you know, in the little slivers.
Little slivers, right?
Chew your food.
Chew your food. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny. It's good.
But Harold, this has been a blast. I can't thank you enough.
When you came to me with the idea, you know, it was like, I'm like, Monday morning, I'm off, Joe, you know, whatever. But then as we're sitting down having coffee, talking about it, I'm like, I absolutely, you know, because first of all, I love you too, and I appreciate the friendship. But I enjoy that give and take, and if I get to learn a little bit more, and you know, it's good stuff, man.
Well, essentially, we're kind of doing the same thing, right?
No
you
doubt.
make food for people. You're a chef. I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
It's all about that experience.
Yeah.
People bring clients in to have dinner at your place. You got to make it great. I get referrals. People refer clients to me.
Yeah.
I have to make it great.
Yeah.
It's all about just people, isn't it?
It is.
It's all about looking at what you do and just doing it the best that you can. A lot of people are always looking on the other side. What if I did this? What if I did that? There's no fast way to make money. Everybody wants to hit the home run right off the bat. I'm good with a couple base hits.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
One after another. But it's all about the people. It's about being a good listener, working hard, and developing relationships.
Yeah, when you face those hard times, you know, when you're in that cave 200 meters down and there's no way out, then you just keep going.
That's right.
You know, don't be afraid. Just keep going.
I don't want to be in that cave, Harold.
I'll never make you go in the cave, Joe.
Thanks again.
You got it. My pleasure. Thanks, brother.
Right.